Good morning, Vietnam. And by Vietnam, I mean MMA world. What's going on? How is everybody? We're back Monday morning MMA on a Tuesday because Tarps off sports. Sometimes we just are off schedule. That's the way she goes. Bane, how are you this morning, man? Can I get a flex?
Oh, you can absolutely get a flex, man. Kuzo, you've earned one after a tough weekend, baby. Put in the work.
Yeah, buddy. That's it. The Bane is here. We have Jack, myself. Guys, right off the hop, I want to jump in. UFC Vegas 37 goes down. Lionheart's the big subject here. You know, he feels like he fights some guys, they're too old. He fights other guys, they're too young. They're not ranked. He feels like maybe he's not getting the proper respect put on his name. He also did a little teabag action after his win, fired up over Smith. Jack, how did you feel about that?
Well, Anthony Smith is at that point in his career where he's got to make it to the next level. He's got to make that jump into that title contention. And I think we saw him get emotional. He's heard the critics say, oh, you fought somebody, they're too old. Oh, you fought somebody, they're not ranked high enough. And he's saying that he's knocking out and beating every single person they put in front of him. And that's all he can do to get to the top. You see the UFC promoting him. They're putting him on all these shows. They're putting him on the broadcasts. It's just started to get to him. And Ryan Spann was talking all that smack before. Yep. So you saw Anthony Smith beat him. He got the rear naked choke. He knocked him down early. He made it look easy. And if you talk that much shit and the guy is upset like Anthony Smith was, I mean, this isn't tennis. This isn't soccer. This is the business of beating people up and trying to choke somebody out. He got emotional. This is MMA. Like, you got to expect that. If you talk that much shit and then the guy beats you easily, yeah, he's going to be fired up. And Anthony Smith was fired up. And I personally love to see it. I like to see the fighters show emotion. Yeah. I like to see him get emotional. This is not tennis.
Me too. I loved it. Bane?
Yeah, exactly. Same thing, right? Criminally underrated. Lionheart has become, but when you look at the body of work that he's done recently, 3 first-round finishes over top guys, who was an undefeated prospect, had a lot of steam, and now Ryan Spann, a big power puncher. Smith knocks him down and then submits him, right? This is a good fighter. I'm not going to say great. I'm not going to say elite. He'll never be in the greatest of all time conversation, but it is a blue-collar worker that everyone can get behind, a guy who goes out there and does what he does best. There's a reason why he has 8 UFC main events. A lot of people can dispute that and contest and argue about it, but whenever the UFC calls, Anthony Smith answers and fights anybody and everybody, and you have to say, him getting annoyed at being criminally underrated is justified, and I hope that he's finally got some respect on his name now.
Yeah, you got to put the respect on his name. I love it. Lionheart's here to stay. And you know what? I got to say, I'm with Jack. This is the fight game. This is the hurt business. And sometimes you talk all that shit, you're going to have someone maybe drop cock on you, do a little teabagging. That happens sometimes, like it's the fight game. This isn't like Jack said. It's not tennis, you know. You know, with TJ Dillashaw when he beat Cody Garbrandt too. Remember, he fucking gave him the old fucking right in his fucking face, right? Like
his face.
People, it's an emotional sport. It's an emotional sport. Speaking of emotional, guys, last night Yoel Romero returned and fought on Bellator. Finally got the clearance. 44 years old. He comes back and listen. How a judge gave him the win and it was a split decision was insane to me. Like, that was not the case. He got outclassed pretty handedly. And at 44 years old, there's no shame in that, especially against Davis, a great opponent. But B, how does an organization have a 3-fight main event? And then how does one of the guys in the fight not know that it's a 3-fight? Like, which is worse, Bane? What do you find worse? The fact that Yoel didn't know or the fact that Bellator didn't have a 5-round main event in the year 2021?
I think the fact that Yoel Romero didn't know that it was a 3-round instead of a 5-round main event is the worst part. Because, again, he's got a training camp. He's got all these people around him that
coaches.
Nobody was like, hey, man, this is only 15 minutes. Like, nobody felt necessary to tell him that. And Bellator's done this before. Like, Bellator's had 3-round main events. It's frustrating, but, like, it's something that they do.
Yeah.
And Yoel Romero, it's on him to know that, right? I don't understand. But the thing that gets me the most, confused, Jack, I don't know if you could agree with this, but people anticipate Yoel Romero to get better with age, to get more explosive. They're like, finally, Yoel's going to come out. No, he's not. He's getting
He's
older.
44.
It's like he's 44. I don't get why people think that he's this mythical creature of a human being. Right, athletically great, but I mean the fighting is just not there anymore.
I mean, we saw him. He got that win over Jacare. That was like his career-defining victory. But he also looked better than I thought he was going to look against Phil Davis. I think that's getting lost in all of this, is that he did fight the number 3 contender in Bellator. And, I mean, a judge gave him the fight, which is ridiculous. But he did. It was close. It wasn't like he got absolutely starched. It was a good competitive fight, and I don't think this is it for Yoel. I heard the rumors, oh, could this be Yoel's last fight? I don't think we're seeing the last of Yoel Romero. I think he can fight and will fight again in Bellator. He did not get starched.
No, I don't think so either. It wasn't like it was a disappointing performance or anything like that. I mean, he's 44 fighting the number 3 guy in the division. I expected it. How a judge gave that a split decision and gave him the fight, I'll never be able to figure out. And the fact that he didn't know it was a 5-round fight was fucking awesome, guys. Speaking of awesome, though, we have some awesome fights coming up this weekend. UFC 266. Volkanovski versus Ortega goes down, but I want to start in the heavyweight division. Curtis Blades taking on Rosenstruck. I don't know about you guys. You know, Blades 14-3, coming off a pretty bad knockout loss to Derek Lewis. And then you got Rosenstruck, who, in my opinion, is one of those guys. I know he lost to Gon. Like, I mean, he's lost 2 of his last 4 fights, but they're against Ngannou and Gon. You know, beat Junior Dos Santos, beat Overeem, beat Andre Orlovsky. He's beat some good guys, right? So, you know, Rosenstruck here, this is definitely the catapult fight for him, right? Bane, like, if he wins this one, he's going right into that fuck time, I guess you would call it, in the UFC heavyweight division.
That's sort of, yeah, razor blades is the litmus test for whether or not you get to fight for a title, right? It seems that whenever you beat, Curtis, that's the next fight is either a number 1 contender spot or for the belt. And you look at Curtis's record, right? 14-3. All 3 of those losses, just terrible knockouts, right? It's like he either wins or gets devastatingly knocked out, which is tough. Rosenstruck 12-2 overall. So this is a good one. I don't think that Rosenstruck has fought a really solid wrestler before in the UFC. I can't recall. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But Blades is a serious threat. You look at what he did to Volkov, 25 minutes of just dominating. And so I think this is a really, really good yardstick for whether or not Jairzinho will truly be.
Oh. Lost you there for a second, babe, but I see what you're saying here. And to be honest, I don't think that Rosenstruck can compete with Blades here. I think that Blades is going to go for a knockdown, kind of like, or a takedown like he did in the Derek Lewis fight. But this time, I don't know if the Rosenstruck's got that timing, that precision, that power to, land that big shot that puts him away when he's coming to go for the takedown. I think Blades gets the fight to the ground. I think he keeps it on the ground. I don't know if we're going to see the most exciting fight in UFC history or the heavyweight division by any means, but I think Blades is able to wrestle it out for 3 rounds and pick up a W.
Yeah. I feel you there, Jack. I feel you there. I think that's got to be the game plan coming in from his camp. And like you said, I don't think he's going to get caught like when you're fighting a Derek Lewis. He'll be able to kind of implement his game plan and really take it to Rosenstruck. I got to agree with that. I think that's how it goes down. Now, we have that kind of, I would call it the people's main event for sure. Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler. Nick Diaz is back after 5 years or 6 years out of the MMA world. And, if you've been following the sport as long as we all have, it's a pretty big deal that Nick Diaz is coming back to fight, but we're going to see a bit of a different Nick Diaz than we're used to. Nick Diaz, the gangster from Stockton, California, ain't that guy anymore. He runs their academy. He loves teaching the kids. And he came right out and said, you're not going to see the old, less sportsmanlike version of himself. You're going to see him be more sportsmanlike. But then he kind of said that he was like a great sport the last time they fought. But I remembered him having his hands up the whole fight and doing crazy stuff. But
he's yelling "Stockton, motherfucker."
Yeah. I thought he was doing that during that fight. But I mean, do you think we're going to see a different Nick Diaz once he gets in the cage, or is Nick Diaz just a different animal and he's coming, Jack?
He's coming. I mean, I think he wants to show the good sportsmanship. I truly think he believes what he's saying. But when he gets in there, when the Diaz fight, it's different. You're going to see him yelling, "Stockton, motherfucker," throwing his hands up, taunting him when he hits him. You're going to see the slaps. You're going to see all of it. It's who Nick Diaz is. And I don't think even no matter how hard he himself tries, he can change it. The Diaz brothers are what they are for a reason. They're so real. And I think you're going to see that realness next Saturday when Nick Diaz steps in there. I'm just wondering, what kind of Nick Diaz do we see? Has he gotten better? Has he slowed down? The age is definitely not on his side, but it's not on Robbie's side either. They're both getting older. There's just so many unknowns here. It's tough to really break down the fight.
Could be some cage rust as well. Who knows? Bane, how do you see Lawler and Diaz going?
Yeah, same question that I have that Jack just brought up, right? Nick Diaz hasn't been in the cage since 2015. He hasn't won since like 2012 or 2011. And when you look at fighters returning after long layoffs, traditionally it doesn't go well, right? Guys coming back from years out of the sport, out of the scene, they don't typically win. And so I'm definitely concerned about that. But you picked a great opponent in Robbie Lawler. Lawler hasn't won in years either. Lawler hasn't looked like ruthless since the Condit fight, maybe, right? So it's a guy in Robbie Lawler who has declined rapidly throughout his last 4 fights in terms of his ability, in terms of his aggression, and Nick Diaz, who is if what he's saying is true, more refined, more professional. So I'm interested to see how it goes down. I don't know if it's going to be a good fight, but the aura surrounding it is definitely what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, definitely. Now, question for you. If Nick Diaz beats Robbie Lawler, is that it for Robbie? Like, if either one of these guys loses, do you think that's it for either guy?
Yeah, I do.
I think so.
Yeah, you think this is almost like a swan song fight for one of these guys? Like, one of them's going to be continuing on and the other one's going to be, going home and calling it a career. Now, Robbie Lawler's lost 4 fights in a row. He lost to RDA, Ben Askren, Colby Covington, and the Neil Magny, I think it was, someone like that. He's lost his last 4 fights, so he needs one back big time. But like you said, all the advantages in Robbie Lawler's corner because Nick has been out of the game for so long. But I want to take it on to the co-main event of the evening. Lauren Murphy is looking to dethrone Valentina Shevchenko. That's a tall order for anybody to do that to the bullet. But, Lauren Murphy's a pretty impressive fighter. She sits at 15-4. I think she's out of, I think she fights out of Alaska, and she's tough, man. I mean, she's got a 53% KO percentage, and, I hate seeing these. It's getting to be like the Nunes thing. I know Nunes starched Shevchenko twice, but we're getting tough to find. It's been hard to find suitable opponents for. But, you have Murphy here riding a 5-fight win streak here coming into this. And I know it was a split decision in her last fight, but she's been firing on all cylinders. Bane, can we finally see someone give Valentina Shevchenko a go that isn't Amanda Nunes?
No. I don't see how lucky Lauren Murphy brings anything different to the table. I saw a tweet and it was like, Lauren Murphy saying, "Oh, she hasn't faced anyone like me." And then like the other flyweights, and it was Sprite, 7-Up, and Sierra Mist. They're all very, very similar. She's got wins over KGB Lee, right? Angier Lee, who's a phenomenal flyweight. And that was a close scrap, but I just don't see what she brings to the octagon that Valentina can't deal with handily.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Unfortunately, I feel basically the same. I think Lauren Murphy is one of the toughest fights in that division, but is it a tough fight for Valentina? I don't think so. I don't think Valentina Shevchenko has a tough fight in her division. I think the only one in the UFC that can beat her is Amanda Nunes, and until we see maybe the UFC bring in another fighter from a different promotion. I look at One Championship over there. They've got some female killers over in One Championship. I think it would take something like that to really see a good fight for Valentina Shevchenko.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there, Jack. I think they do need to strengthen up on this side of the pond's women's divisions here. Like we're getting a little bit too much of the like you said, it's Nunes and then it's Shevchenko and then it's like you could drop 5 spots and it's the rest of everybody else, right? Like it's that extreme. I know people don't love hearing that, but that's just the way it is. Now, I want to talk to you guys about the main event of the evening. We have Brian Ortega taking on Alexander Volkanovski. Ortega's 15-1. Volkanovski 22-1. Guys, how do you see this going? I know Ortega lost to Max Holloway, was his one loss, and I think it was back in 2013 was the last time Volkanovski lost. This fight is so tough for me, like personally, like it's a coin flip. I feel different every day. I'm just gonna get it out of the way now. I think Ortega's gonna win. I don't know why. There's no reason even behind it. I just got a feeling, but it could change by the event. I don't like to use the term ball hair too much on here, but this fight is split by a ball hair.
I have to agree with you there. It's a really tough
definitely
fight
close
to call.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost feel like my heart wants to go Ortega, but my brain wants to go Volkanovski. They tried to sell the fight with Tough. I don't know how successful they were selling this rivalry with the stupid pranks back and forth that honestly weren't very funny. I mean, I don't dislike either guy. I don't love either guy. I'm pretty impartial to both of them. I think Volkanovski's incredibly athletic. I love his odds if this fight does go to the ground. I don't know if Ortega can knock out Volkanovski. I think they both can win on the ground. It's split by a ball hair, like you said. I'm leaning, I guess, Volkanovski. And I say I guess.
Bane.
I'm a bit more confident in Volkanovski. I will say I feel pretty confident picking Volk. You look at let's say Ortega does stun him. Volkanovski's got some impeccable recovery. You think about Mendez knockdown. Volk popped right back up and was engaging. You think about the Holloway head kick that momentarily knocked down Volkanovski. Popped right back up and engaged, right? Yep. So in the event that Ortega stuns him on the feet, I think Alex can be fine. He can weather that storm. I don't think Ortega has the same recovery. I don't think in a dogfight, Ortega has the same durability that Volkanovski has. And I think Volk has a lot better striking, a lot more fundamentals, great leg kicks that he displayed in Holloway. I just think that if this fight stays standing, it really is in the champion's realm. But again, right, if the fight hits the ground, Ortega's got some slick BJJ. That's where things get tricky. But Volkanovski's takedown defense, similarly, very, very underrated. So I just don't see a lot of paths to victory for Brian Ortega. But I didn't see a lot of paths to victory for T-City against the Korean Zombie. And we all know what happened with that. So I'm picking Volk. I feel comfortable with it. But, I think T-City's a great fighter. And Ortega, 2 years off, one fight, now into title contention. I don't know. I'm not sold on Brian 2.0.
No. And I mean, Volkanovski's coming off back-to-back wins over Max Holloway, which everyone, he has his own cult following. Was actually the guy who gave Ortega his only loss as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now, I want to talk about one fight that's coming up down the road because, listen, Luke Rockhold and Sean Strickland, not only is it getting personal in the media, boys, but sources, Jack, I see you smiling, say, it's intensifying behind the scenes, like those two, it's not this isn't for building the fight or anything like that. Like Sean Strickland is fucking, you guys know how he is, right? He's wired differently. And Luke Rockhold is really, really not liking the way that he talks about him. He doesn't fucking like when anyone uses his name to be thrown in with murder and stuff like that. all the depths that Strickland will go to, right? Like Strickland said, I'll fuck you up in your car. This has been before they even had this fight announced. There's been beef. Man, I'm interested to see how the media day goes between Sean Strickland and Luke Rockhold. And I just want to get a little early days predictions from each of you guys. I'm going to keep mine till last, but Jack, let us know, Luke Rockhold or Sean Strickland?
I'm going Sean Strickland. He's moved up to now. He's number 7 in the division. Luke Rockhold had that shoulder surgery. You wonder if that's going to have an effect. He's got that ring rust. He basically retired. He's coming out of retirement. I know he never officially said he was retired, but he definitely stepped back away from the sport. Yeah. It's tough to come back, especially when you're matched up against a killer like Sean Strickland. I mean, that's not an easy comeback fight, and it's a top 10 ranked opponent in the division. I would have thought they would give Luke Rockhold maybe an easier welcome back to the UFC fight, but he's getting thrown right into the fire, and I think he's going to get burned.
They gave him a sociopath. Yeah, they gave him an absolutely insane man to come back to. And like, it's a perfect combination of Strickland, who talks all that trash, is quite literally clinically insane, and, Luke Rockhold, who takes things personally. Rockhold is a guy who is vulnerable emotionally. He wears it on the sleeve. That's something that we've seen before, right? All of Bisping's trash talk went directly to Rockhold's head, his heart, and that just, to me, resulted in poor fights from Rockhold. He's fighting with emotion. And against a guy like Sean Strickland, who has the just superior boxing that he does. Strickland's got hands, you know what I mean? And the chin of Rockhold, the durability. I really think that it's going to be a very easy fight for Sean Strickland.
Yeah. Okay. Then this isn't controversial. I think Strickland's going to first round him. I think it's going to be bad. Sean Strickland is a bad motherfucker. No disrespect to Luke Rockhold. He's a good fighter in his time, but I think Strickland's like a different type of animal in that division, and he's going to make his way into the title picture sooner rather than later. And, I wouldn't hate to see that, guys, but you know what you do hate to see? Another episode, another week, another hate to see it. This week's hate to see it from me actually goes out to you, Dana White. This week, past week, Ariel Helwani confirmed there has been a World Fight League that being talked about. Now it involves a lot of large wealth individuals as well as prominent fighters. You can't really get into that stuff because I've heard from people that there's contracts and stuff still with some of those people, etc. But Dana White, when you're paying like 18% split, while every other sport is paying 50%, if not 52% in the form of the players' way with revenue share. This is the kind of thing that's going to happen. These guys want to unionize. They're going to offer them 50-50, a union representation within the league. I know everyone's going to say, oh, no one's going to beat the UFC. No one's going to beat the UFC. Well, look what's going on in the world of professional wrestling right now. You got AEW nipping at the ankles of WWE. There is people, the information is so, and the product is so easy to deliver to people now with the internet. Like, careful what you wish for, man. I think all those, turning down $5,000 extra in pay to go play $30,000 hand blackjack in a Vegas casino is going to bite Dana White in the ass in the coming years. Jack, I see you over there, Mr. Negative, doesn't think it's going to happen. So you tell me why, and then I'll explain why you're wrong.
No, it's not the same thing as the WWE and ACW. It's ESPN is behind the UFC, and ESPN is a lot more powerful than any of those other networks. The promotion, the production, everything, it's going to be so hard. I mean, we've seen some other organizations come in and try to take on the UFC in North America. Bellator, they fail every single week doing it. They just don't have the same roster. They don't have the same fights. The matchmaking is a little suspect at times. I mean, Usman Nurmagomedov he could be fighting me next week. It's
true. He's not wrong. It is kind of true. I guess.
PFL, they try. Their production is just not the same. They try all these funky things with their kind of like what we heard they're going to try with the season and stuff. People just aren't as captivated because they don't have that roster. How are you going to come in with a worse roster and immediately compete? You won't be able to.
You're going to be in the conversation when it comes time for free agents. You've already heard Sean O'Malley say he's going to test the market. He's not just signing a UFC deal. He's going to let his deal expire. He's going to weigh his options. I think you're going to see a lot of guys do that. People want the revenue split to be higher if they can go and do that now. Tyron Woodley's right. He said it. It's hard to unionize guys. Like, how are we all supposed to be one unit when we're in there trying to kill each other? Now, if you already have that in place within the league, well, that makes it easy. You have to be a part of it. You have to pay your dues. Now, unions, that's where this comes in. I'm not going to go as deep in as possible, but people that run unions, guys, aren't always on the straight and narrow, and those people have a lot of money, and it's just like, I think there's going to be a lot of initial investment money coming in 2023. I don't know how many fights Sean O'Malley has, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the World Fight League come out and sign like a Sean O'Malley to a massive deal right off the hop and send a message that they're here. Kind of like what AEW did when they brought in Chris Jericho from WWE.
But how many? Okay, and that's different because there's no shelf life on professional wrestlers. Jericho was just as good at age. He could be 80 and he's still going to be able to sell a fight. It doesn't work like that in the UFC or MMA or mixed martial arts. How many guys are they going to be able to take that are really actually sellers that can sell fights? Sean O'Malley ain't going to do it by himself. They would have to have about 10 more of those, and it's going to be tough because fighters are still going to be under contract. The UFC would have to drop the ball bad to let this organization take over, in my opinion, and I don't think it happens. Dana White, say what you want about him, the man is a good businessman.
Yep.
Well, you think about Disney as well. Disney being behind ESPN, another massive behemoth with just money for days. I mean, it's literally Scrooge McDuck over there at Walt Disney's Playhouse, right? So they're like, it is the backing behind the UFC is not something that any other organization can match, regardless of who you have investing into it. It's generational that is now backing the UFC. But you bring up a good point, right? In the talent, one bad loss takes away a lot of stock from somebody. Right, a lot of steam could be removed with one bad loss. Sean O'Malley gets taken out in a bad way. I mean, that's the unpredictability of it. I'd love to see the WFL come onto the scene in a successful way and maybe make something happen. It's always good having more promotions. I love fighting. It's always good having more scenes out there to offer guys contracts and to have fights going to enjoy. But I just don't see them rivaling the UFC, at least not immediately. Maybe over a period of time, but not at the start. I can't imagine that.
I'm with you.
No, I think it's going to be tough, but you've seen it with WWE. It can be done. We're in the information age, man. It's very easy to get your info and get your product into the hands of the consumer, especially if you got a young pioneer behind it, like you see with AEW and that Khan kid, Tony Khan or whatever. He's like fucking just young. He gets how this stuff works. They're able to market it a certain way. We'll see. I think the World Fight League could put an end to these free cards. Like, I think they could really put the fork in them, those ESPN Fight Night cards.
You want to know something I don't think we're going to see an end to anytime soon? That's the celebrity boxing. And another thing I hate to see is Jorge Masvidal looks like the fight that makes most sense for him might be Jake Paul. Let's be honest. Let's look at the top ranked welterweights. You got Wonder Boy, Luque, Edwards, Burns, and Covington. I don't think Masvidal beats a single one of those guys.
No, I mean, hey, you hate to see it, but maybe he is better suited to go take a couple $1 million from Paul. But again, I always wonder if those Paul fights are sus, and I don't think Jorge Masvidal would ever drop a fight for anybody for any amount of money or not knock someone out. Like, he punched Leon Edwards right in the face backstage. No problem. Served him a 3-piece and a soda right on the spot.
And
and honestly, a fight that makes sense is if Colby Covington is to lose to Usman, that fight, you could sell the shit out of that, Masvidal Covington.
Yeah, right now Masvidal's best fight might be Jake Paul, but let's see what happens with Usman Covington. You're right, because if Covington loses, it has to be Jorge and Colby. They have to do it.
You know, but one thing that's really interesting when you think about it is Masvidal could entertain outside the UFC more because of the 2 losses to Usman. When you're in the top of the division, right, the belt is on your mind. That's your goal. Masvidal's been unsuccessful on 2 attempts now, the second one in a bad way. I think that, yeah, he's looking at it like, okay, I can't get the title. Let's see what else is out there. Let's see what makes the most financial sense. He might entertain Paul a lot more because he's like, I'm not going to beat Usman anytime soon.
Nope. Certainly something you hate to see. The guy's only option being Jake Paul, who's as good of a guy as Jorge Masvidal. I think he's great, but yeah, you hate to see it, eh, Jack?
Hate to see it, but I think it makes the most sense.
You hate to see this week or what?
Man, I hate to see my internet connection do this to me. I hate to see this.
Yeah,
poor,
I was just going to say that. If you didn't have one, I was going to
God.
say Bane's internet connection. Hate to see it.
It's ruining me. It's hate to see it.
Well,
buddy, you got to call him and get the next package up, and we'll do a Twitter fundraiser for you, whatever the difference is.
Before
we'll do a $17 a month fundraiser.
Before Bane's internet connection shot him in the foot, we do have an arrest this weekend. Was Dylan Dennis. You don't know, is that
Dylan?
real or?
I have no clue. I hope so. Get him
I
out of
hope
here.
so too. Dylan Dennis, listen, cocaine and fucking fighting don't mix. Like being a professional fighter and cocaine don't mix because you're always going to fuck up outside the octagon. Dylan Dennis, hate to see it. I think we could just pick that one up. Dylan Dennis, we hate to see that too.
The Jake Shields Network, apparently he was arrested for impersonating an MMA fighter.
Oh, well, that's the charge he's certainly guilty of. Oh, shit. Dylan Dennis, hope you're okay, brother. Keep that soap on a rope. Make sure you guys go on over to youtube.com/TarpsOffSports and hit the subscribe button, Tarps Off Sports on everything. Bane, let them know where you're at.
At the Bane's MMA on Twitter, typically where things go down. Esports broadcasting on the weekends for the Esports Fight League, ESFL. Make sure to tune into that. We've got some great cards coming up.
Bang.
Jack?
At Jack Gotzel. Everything Tarps Off Sports. You know where to find me.
Yeah, it's the same. Tarps Off Sports for me, too. Peace out, guys.